Today, we're making a Little Caesars hot and ready.
Little Caesars. Pizza, pizza.
This is one of my favorite takeout pizzas, not only because it's only $5.
Large pizza, it's here.
I think it's a little bit more. It might be almost $6. Who really knows? It's cheap, and it's cheap because it's really, really simple. Today's video, I'm gonna show you the 3 steps that Little Caesars goes through to make this pizza, and it's so easy that you can make it at home too. Let's start off with the dough. Start with all-purpose flour. Got instant yeast or bread-making yeast, and just a tiny little bit of white sugar to get the yeasts going. And now I'm gonna add my salt. Apparently this prevents the yeast and the salt from coming in direct contact with each other, which is better for the yeast. I'm gonna form a little well in the center. I've got some room temperature water. I'm gonna slowly add this in, stirring while I go until all the flour is moistened. It's pulling away from the sides, just sort of slightly, still quite sticky, but I don't want to overwork this, so this is good. Another bowl, I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil, add my dough in, turn it around so it's coated in the oil. So my dough is covered tightly. It looks a little small at this point, but it is going to double in size. I need to set this somewhere warm for about an hour. So if you've ever made pizza dough before, you know that an hour-long rise is really, really short. We're not gonna get an incredible amount of flavor out of this dough. We're sort of cutting a few corners, or really we're doing this in the shortest period of time possible. I think speed certainly fits with the hot and ready Little Caesars idea.
Pizza, pizza.
That's gonna sit for an hour, which is gonna give us enough time to make our sauce. We're gonna start with tomatoes. These are crushed tomatoes. Canned tomatoes are perfectly fine for these types of recipes. In fact, they're probably even better. Let's start combining it. Now to this, I'm gonna add some Italian herbs. I'm gonna add a little bit of basil and a bit of oregano, black pepper, pinch of salt, and to help cut the acidity, a little bit of sugar. The last 2 things are really a bit of a secret weapon for this sauce, a bit of garlic powder and a bit of onion powder. And then just whisk everything until it's combined. So the last thing that we need to deal with is cheese. This is where the internet is super helpful. I go on the Little Caesars website. They tell me exactly what types of cheeses are in here. Number 1 is we need mozzarella. What you're looking for is low moisture mozzarella, and that's what I have here. It's a little bit hard to find where I live. When I lived in Canada, you can find this in a block, and it works really, really well. These are slices, which I think is basically gonna do the same thing. But if you can find a block of low moisture mozzarella, that's perfect. What you want to avoid is this stuff. This is fresh mozzarella. It's the same product, basically, but there's a lot of moisture in here, and that's not gonna be good for our pizza. And so this is where things differ a little bit depending on where you live. In Europe, they use Gouda.
Someone else would go, oh, I'm Gouda.
Oh, really, really good melting cheese, not overpowering. This tends to be a little more expensive in the United States, so they use a local cheese, Munster. There's French Munster, which is really like a stinky sort of cheese. They're certainly not using that. They're using American Munster, which is very, very similar to this. If you're in Europe, Gouda. If you're in the US, Canada, Munster is probably what you're able to find to keep the cost low, which is what Little Caesars is doing. Let's grate these down. So we got our mozzarella and we got our Gouda. We are basically ready. Our sauce is done. Our cheese is ready to go. Our dough is almost done. So let's go check on that. So this has basically doubled in size. It sat for an hour. If you really wanted to take this up a notch, you could put it in the fridge at this point for 6 hours, up to 24 hours, and you're gonna get a lot more depth of flavor. We're going for a hot and ready, so
Pizza, pizza.
this is a quick dough. It's still gonna be good. The last thing that we need to make this pizza is a pan. This is a carbon steel pan. You could use cast iron. I mean, you could probably even use stainless steel. Really, anything that can go into the oven is going to be your friend on this. So let's get our dough into here and start forming it. We're gonna use a little bit of the extra oil that I put into the dough when I was making it to basically lubricate this so that it doesn't stick too much. Once it's formed, we're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes, basically a second rise or a second proof, and throw it in the oven. So that's been about 5 minutes in my oven at 475 Fahrenheit, 245-ish Celsius, basically as hot as my oven will go. Now we're gonna add our toppings. We're gonna put our pizza sauce on the bottom and then our cheese mixture on top. And it's gonna go back in the oven for probably about another 5 minutes or until it's golden brown and delicious. We got a Little Caesars hot and ready, a cheese pizza. Let's give it a try. Oh, it's really good. The dough is shockingly good for a really, really small amount of work. The sauce is really, really close to the Little Caesars that I know. And I like the cheese version. I think it's my favorite. You could put pepperoni on this if you wanted to. Really good pizza, really simple. Hope you enjoyed today's video. See you next time.